And welcome back. Joining us for our first conversation are representatives here to talk to us about the Coalition to Save Our Natural Heritage. On our couch, we have Ms. Janelle Chanona, who is the Vice President of Oceania Belize. We have Mr. John Burgess, who is the Executive Director of the Belize Tourism Industry Association, and Ms. Amanda Burgess Acosta, who is the Executive Director of the Belize Audubon Society. Good morning to you all. Welcome to Open Your Eyes. Thank you for being here first thing Monday to talk to us about a really
Monday.
Right, exactly, moratorium Monday.
Yeah, even better.
All right, so tell us about the moratorium bill and talk to us a little bit about the conversation that happened last week.
Okay, so the bill was introduced on October 20th by the Minister of Petroleum. Of course, it had been announced previously by the Prime Minister in the House, so everything is moving according to the plan identified. So where we are now is the bill has been referred to the Natural Resources and Environment House Committee. They will meet on it, they will discuss it, they will take it back to the House, it will be debated, it will be voted, and knock on wood, it will then be referred to the Senate. They will debate, vote on it, and then subsequently it will go to the Governor General for his signature and becomes law. We do have to update that the staff of the National Assembly has advised us that the House meeting, the House Committee meeting of the Natural Resources and Environment Committee has been postponed. It was supposed to be today at 10:30, but that meeting has been postponed. We weren't told why, but we were told that we will be updated as soon as that new date is set. We are aware Cabinet is usually on Tuesdays. I think the Senate Select Inquiry is on Wednesday, so I don't expect a date before Thursday or Friday, but you know, we're keeping vigilant and keeping in close communication with the staff at the National Assembly, and as soon as we have that date, we will be publicizing it.
For those who may not know, can you share with us what the scope of the moratorium is in terms of what can and cannot be done offshore?
Nothing. Nothing anywhere. In terms of oil.
It defines the reef from Bacalar Chico. It defines the contiguous reef all the way to the Sapodilla Keys, and then it gets into basically exactly that. It says that there is no oil exploration drilling on the reef, and it gives some conditions of penalties and if you were to breach the legislation.
The journey to get here has been quite amazing one for a really basic word. Did you ever feel that you would get to this place?
I think certainly looking at the commitment of Belizeans to this, it was all up to them. The more, unwavering they were in their participation, the more they insisted that they wanted to be consulted and involved in it. And certainly the tourism industry has ensured that in terms of the viability of the tourism product, it was absolutely essential and necessary.
I mean, if you look at where everything began, I think it was around 2003 when you first began to hear about the offshore concessions being awarded to different entities that had no business related to petroleum, which was the first alarming thing that came to the forefront, no? But since then, I think that we really realized the seriousness of what was being proposed. And of course, anybody involved with the tourism industry or the fishing industry or anybody that benefits from the Belize Marine Reef System or marine ecosystems knows that that is something that is immediately going to affect me. Because of course, you see all the examples of the different catastrophes happening around us, all around the world. And one of the other key factors that you have to take into consideration, even if you find oil out there, that does not going to guarantee that your country is going to be better off.
It's viable, yeah.
And that is one of the critical things. At least we know that the way we are right now, almost 200,000 Belizeans are benefiting. The recent economic evaluation that the World Wildlife Fund presented, it's almost $1 billion US being generated on a yearly basis. And I'm sure that figure is only growing.
Yeah.
So you're going to put all of that as risk because of the possibility. And then even if it's there, it's not guaranteed that the petroleum is going to make things better for Belize.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
Definitely.
When you look at, as Jamie mentioned, the road to get to where we are at present, it's been quite a struggle in a sense between the environmental community and the government in terms of trying to get on one accord, in a sense. when I look back at the effort to have a referendum, for instance, when I look at the campaigns to raise public awareness as to the possible dangers of any form of exploration offshore and what the impact of that could be on our natural resources, marine and what have you, to get the government to come to the table and agree and say, you know what, well, we're finally seeing things from your point of view enough to put this into place. I think it speaks a lot in terms of what has been accomplished over time. What is next? Going forward, once the bill has been enacted, it becomes law, what happens next in terms of any form of either advocacy or the spreading of this particular knowledge to the citizenry?
Well, from our perspective, from the BTI perspective, I can tell you, I mean, to us, this is only the beginning. We have been promoting since the inception of the BTI that we're supposed to be promoting the sustainable development of the tourism industry. So this is only the beginning. We have issues with mangroves removal, and you know how vital the role of the mangroves are to them, not only for fishes, but also to protect our coastline, you know, so that alone. But we hope that just last week, I gotta say, I see glimmers of light and progressive thinking being implemented from different departments. More particularly, the Belize Tourism Board last week at their National Tourism Conference, their focus was sustainable tourism, which is what we have been talking and promoting for a very long time. So we, having government being looking into that area, we know that sustainable tourism is not something that you mention once a year and then you forget about it. It's something that has to be continuing to evolve. We have to look at different issues that are creating so many negative impacts on the environment. We have an issue with pollution, plastic pollution, solid waste management. I mean, you go down styrofoam, the water's being the warmer, you know, the chloral bleaching being affected. I mean, all of these are serious problems, and I think that having the moratorium in place kind of gives us a little bit more, how can I say, credibility in terms of being able to continue the conversation of what we need to do to conserve our water.
I think it was a long road. It took us long to get here to this point. I think there were a lot of lessons learned throughout this process, and I think this is the first kind of campaign or advocacy that has been maintained for years. I think normally the feeling is, oh, they're sensationalists, they'll go away kind of thing, or it's whatever is current at the moment. But I think this issue showed that it's cross-cutting. It showed that there is, Belizeans are conscious, and they have a consciousness of what is creating the income for them, a consciousness of what is important to us, and we stick through it. And I think this was also one of the cases. You have coalitions, you have groups of environmental NGOs, but this was totally new in that we included the tourism sector, we included kind of everyone. When we did the people's referendum, it was everybody. We were trying to get involved as much as we could, the unions in the initial. So we've continued along with it, and I think there's a lot of things that we would love to tackle from a national point of view that affect us all. And we were saying, what will be the next kind of challenge that we'll bite at? We'll continue to see, but I think pollution and plastics is one that you see. Panama right now is going to go vote on single-usage plastic bags. So they're asking their citizenry to be involved, and I think that is something that, again, putting back the importance into our natural resources. When we did the cleanup on the highway a couple weekends ago, I mean, the amount of plastics and styrofoams that really there are options and alternatives. Our Caribbean brothers and sisters have, Jamaica, Barbados have all moved away from these items, and we need to follow in line with
It's
that.
interesting that you bring that up, because indeed, when you look at the amount of plastics being used, and it's not just, let's say, plastic bags, it could be cups, disposable cups, any form of plastic. And if you walk around Belize City, you see it.
Right.
If you're traveling along the highways or the main roads, it is also very evident, the consumption of plastics and the fact that we're probably not recycling or finding any alternative use for plastics once we've probably used them, once, a one-time thing. When I look at plastic bags, for instance, you go to a Chinese grocery store or any grocery store for that matter, and you purchase an item. It could be a single item.
You buy one pack of chewing gum and
Yes,
they give you
They
a
give you a
bag.
Put it in
plastic
a
bag.
bag.
Yes.
And then you have nothing to do with the bag afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On my end, what I've done, I no longer buy trash bags. I just end up using the same plastic bags, and that goes out with the garbage at the end of the week. But that's just one little effort on my end.
But in terms of economic opportunities, Mexico, to that same point of the number of bags Mexico was using every day, it's like 1 million bags a day or something, those same gracias single-use bags, they put what would be like a 5-cent charge. And you know this from traveling across the border, you want a bag, you have to pay for the bag.
Yeah.
Overnight, plastic bag use and people wanting to buy the bag fell like 65%. So also to realize that we have a landfill and these are products that never actually degrade. So the more we're putting into our landfill, that's actually that has an impact on the lifespan of our facilities. That has a cost in terms of how many more trucks are we going to be using if the trucks have to be back and forth and picking up garbage all day. Right now we're at 2 days a week, maybe it's 3 days. But also in terms of, are we even aware of possible health implications? We're putting hot food in styrofoam. Styrofoam and single-use plastic is petroleum-based. Is there leaching happening? Is there, could there be a correlation between what we're seeing in the health sector in terms of diagnoses of different illnesses and how we're eating? I see, kids drinking Coca-Cola and any soda and juices and water out of a plastic bag with a plastic straw. Does that have an implication for what we're doing to our bodies? But certainly with all of this, I think in terms of what happens next going forward, I personally, and I know the coalition as well endorses, just having that constant flow of information. Because what this issue has really highlighted is that when people have the information, they connect their dots, they internalize it, they localize it, they see this equals this, and they get to be a part of it. Because if we don't have the information, we are totally unaware, we're in our little bubbles, homework, school, and that's it. But with the information, we can continue to engage meaningfully, we can offer success stories, we can play a role. So that's really in terms of even of this bill. It's a moratorium, and even if it was a law, it could be changed by lawmakers. How many people actually listen through to a House meeting? How many people listen through to the Senate? That's usually our primary source of information in terms of what's happening with laws and policies. So in terms of our recommendations for this bill is really about transparency, having that if any future parliament, and we hope that's a very long we've not unforeseen, but if any future parliament wants to come back to the Belizean people and say, we would like to change and lift this moratorium, that there be a fully transparent, fully informed process where Belizeans would make that collective decision. So in terms of what happens next, it's all up to the Belizean people. Any law at any point can be changed, and it's really to embrace that role that we have, and it's a responsibility as well as a right to be engaged in this decision, to be engaged in what happens with our tourism sector next, because these are development issues. We are so small. Everything has an impact on everything else. You talk about plastic bags. If the tourists go on the beach and they're like, man, this beach dirty. I didn't see this on the brochure, and I didn't see this in the video promoting Belize.
By the way. That's a common thing.
But I think these are instances that we can use as learning opportunities. I think our youth are looking for how to engage themselves. I think they're very interested in our democratic process and how it is that we're governed, how is it that they can participate. They want their voices to be heard. And I think all of us want our voices to be heard, but especially the youth that in this country we have such a large demographic of youth that really are yearning for that engagement, yearning to be, Oceana had their wave makers, and you see the amount of youth in these rooms, and it's really because you're looking for how to be a part of a positive movement, how to be a part of the process. And I think the coalition's hope is that we can continue that and they get lessons in democracy. I mean, you learn about what does it take for a legislation to pass. How is it important for your voice to be heard? How can you be involved in the process? And then ultimately now there is an opportunity, if they so chose, to submit to the House, to the Senate committee, and they can get the opportunity to write in their submissions and to say, this is how I feel about this issue and this is what I think is missing. It's all part of a learning process, and I think we need to engage in that, and we need to really use these opportunities to teach and to move democracy forward, and that they can learn, because the idea here and what we're really promoting is participation, active participation, consultation. What does that mean? We want people, it's not tokenism, it's really hear me, I want my voice to be heard, I want the government to know what I am interested in, what are my concerns. And I think that is what this 8-year process has really been about. It's about teaching everyone how your voice can be heard, and really to raise that voice if it's an issue you feel very passionate about.
You know, you brought up some really salient points, as well as you, Janelle. I feel like you're a bit in my head as well, because I know this whole process, one thing that has made it so phenomenal is the fact that people have had so much information given to them via Instagram, Facebook. People are aware of what the process is about and why it's important. And of course, it's always good to be attached, like you said, to a movement that's positive, that makes you feel like you can own your country and that you are, you know, your voice is credible. What are some of the initiatives moving forward that, I know that this is probably a very, 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 very too early of a question to ask, but what are some future partnerships or future conversations that you're willing to have in order to engage the wider Belizean community? And of course, we live in a country of millennials. I feel like we're just all that generation Y kind of got. But how can you engage not only the percentage that you reach now? It's a lot of people, but there are of course even more people that can be reached. And also in terms of the private sector, what are some of the partnerships that can be potentially formed in order to create an even stronger impact?
If I could take a first stab, as a millennial might say,
Yeah.
and I hope I'm using this in the right context, hashtag stay woke.
Yeah.
Because you can't walk away from anything saying, okay, that's done, on to the next thing. It is really about, as Amanda and John is saying, from the industry point of view, we've never framed this as a conservation point of view or an environment point of view. We're not tree huggers. We don't want to kiss up with the fish. This is really trying to come back to the people and saying people depend on these resources. And who are these people? Your mommy, your daddy,